Hare Krishna. So thank you very much, everyone. Let's do a short invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So, thank you for tuning in today. Today we will be reading chapter 13 of 7th canto. So, before we get into 13th chapter, in the previous chapter, so we discussed the general duties of brahmachari and also some, we talked about grihastha, and then there was a lot of focus on duties of vanaprastha. So, and in this chapter, chapter 13, talks mainly about the sannyas ashram. So previous chapter, brahmachari and vanaprastha, and in this chapter, Narada Muni describes the conduct of a sannyasi through a conversation between Prahlad Maharaj with a renounced person. These chapters are fairly straightforward and simple. When we read, these sannyasis, of course, some of the conduct, some of the qualities, and the conduct of sannyasis mentioned here. Again, it may vary, time to time, and it is based on, some of these things we may not be practicing it today, but you can actually understand the principle. The principle is that they, totally depend on the Lord's mercy. So that's the main quality. Okay, so if you're in a position to read, please raise your hand. We will read some verses. This is a pretty straightforward chapter. So Kiran Koli Mataji. So you may read some verses I'll be mentioning. Yeah. Can you read first three, please? Did you raise your hand, Kiran Koli Mataji? You are on mute. Oops. Am I audible?
Yeah. So
are you willing to read?
Yes, I am. Sorry, my phone was playing up and I couldn't unmute.
No. I don't want to put you on spot. So
No, so I've unmuted now and I can read Hare Krishna
Thank you.
Prabhuji.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Shri Narad Muni said, a person able to cultivate spiritual knowledge should renounce all material connections and merely keeping the body inhabitable, he should travel from one place to another, passing only one night in each village. In this way, without dependence in regard to the needs of the body, the sannyasi should travel all over the world. Text 2. A person in the renounced order of life may try to avoid even a dress to cover himself. If he wears anything at all, it should be only a lion cloth, and when there is no necessity, a sannyasi should not even accept a danda. A sannyasi should avoid carrying anything but a danda and kamandal.
Yeah, one more verse.
Yeah. The sannyasi, completely satisfied in the self, should live on the alms begged from door to door, not being dependent on any person or any place. He should always be a friendly well-wisher to all living beings and be a peaceful, unalloyed devotee of Narayana. In this way, he should move from one place to another.
Thank you. So the
Thank you,
first,
Prabhupada.
first three verses, 1 to 10, they talks about qualities of a sannyasi. Talk about the qualities of a sannyasi. First three verses, the conduct of sannyasi is given. So basically, the sannyasi is very much detached and, merely keeping the body inhabitable, not dependent on anything material, travels on earth, uh, passing only one night in a village means, even the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, they were sleeping under different trees each night. uh, so even though they were sleeping in under a tree, but they used to change the place so that they're not attached to that place. Mm. Um, so, and then it is said that you know they wear bare minimum clothing wise, and sometimes they may accept a danda and kamandalu, but that is also not necessary. Um, should wander alone, and should live on begging alms. So again, depends on the Lord. You don't know what comes into your way. Completely satisfied in self, not dependent on any person or any place, and he should be a well-wisher of all living entities and be peaceful, shanta, and the topmost quality is completely surrendered to Lord Narayana. Hmm? Narayana Parayanaha, fully dependent on Narayana. So we'll move on. Next, text 4 till 6 that talks about uh, they talk on about the quality, the consciousness of sannyasi. So carry on, Mataji. Please read 4, 5, and 6. You may unmute, Mataji. Kiran Kohli Mataji.
Sorry. Sorry, someone just came to the door and I had to go in. Sorry.
Maybe
Yeah.
sannyasi is begging alms.
Actually, Somebody's brought food for me because I wasn't well.
The other way around, sannyasi is
Yeah.
yeah.
I will just read. Sorry about that.
456.
Sure. Just give me a minute, please. I'm so
Sure.
sorry.
No, it's okay.
My apologies for delaying.
Not at all.
The sannya- the sannyasi should always try to see the supreme pervading everything and see everything, including this universe, resting on the supreme. During the unconscious and conscious, and between the two, he should try to understand the self and be fully situated in the self. In this way, he should realize that the conditional and liberated stages of life are only illusory and not actually factual. With such a higher understanding, he should see only the absolute truth pervading everything. Since the material body is sure to be vanquished and the duration of one's life is not fixed, neither death nor life is to be praised. Rather, one should observe the eternal time factor in which the living entity manifests himself and disappears.
Thank you,
Should I
Mataji.
read more?
Yeah, so yeah, time being, please wait. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and sannyasi means one who sees the Lord presence everywhere and sees everything in the Lord. Mm. So he sees Lord is all pervading, um, and everything is all happening by the will of the Lord. He sees that time factor is playing the role. Due to time, things are changing. Mm. Um, so observes the power of time that causes appearance and disappearance of all living beings. Instead of praising uh, the uncertain life and death. So uh, yeah, so sees the inevitable time factor. Mm. They are, they go beyond the dualities of this material life. Mm. And so in the next three verses, the other qualities of sannyasis are mentioned. Um, so teaching and arguments. Mm. So literature without spiritual benefit should be rejected. Mm. And one should not become a professional teacher nor indulge in arguments and take sides. So it is an important aspect here. This is like in the neophyte stage, one may do anything, but as this is an advanced stage. Uh, uh, so literature that is useless and waste of time should be avoided, should be only literature that spiritually benefiting should be accepted. Mm. Um, so one should not become a professional teacher as a means of earnings one's livelihood. Mm. And nor should one indulge in arguments and counter arguments, nor should one take shelter of any cause or faction. So you see that there are many professional reciters in India. They make a living out of Bhagavatam, uh, but that is not recommended. That is not actually recommended or advised here. Professional. Uh, uh, so and they don't want to make living out of these spiritual things. Um, so neophytes do that. Uh, but when you do Bhagavatam, some donation comes, you offer it to the Lord, but do not make living out of it. It is said that one should not become a professional teacher in a sannyas stage, and nor should one indulge in arguments and counter arguments. Um, so devotees usually, though, they don't get into these arguments. Uh, mm, Usually, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there was a Vijay Pandit that he was going all over the world and arguing, debating, um, and hmm, once actually one such debater came to Vrindavan, and when he came to know that Rupa Goswami was a great scholar, he approached Rupa Goswami and said that that he wanted to debate with Rupa Goswami. But Rupa Goswami, without debating, he just signed the documents saying that he was defeated. I mean, Rupa Goswami was defeated. So this he was going around and showing that he defeated Rupa Goswami. But however, Joe Goswami was a very young uh, Vaishnava. He was nephew of Rupa Goswami. Uh, but Rupa Goswami defeated this Pandit, um, and however, Rupa Goswami was unhappy with Joe Goswami, because you unnecessarily wasted your time in debating with this Digvijay Pandit. Uh, so that's why these Vaishnavas, they don't get into, like, other, you see many transcend, at least in India, they will demonstrate their poetry and their many abilities. Uh, um, but Vaishnavas don't do that. You know, these Ashtavadhanam, Shatavadhanam, like, I mean, in yes. So they usually, people giving some challenges, uh, poetical challenges, and this guy will be composing poems on the spot, um, and songs and other things on the spot. uh, they can do that for 1,000 people sitting and asking, and they would do this. But Vaishnavas wouldn't waste time on these things because they are not directly relating to Krishna. So sannyasi must not present allurements of material benefits to gather many disciples. So just to gather disciples, you should not say, you become my disciple and I will teach you how you become rich, how you are able to solve your material problem. Just, one should not allure like that. Mm. Um, and yeah, so, and also you must never attempt to increase material unnecessarily, material opulences. Mm. And the sannyasi should be peaceful, equiposed, who is factually advanced in spiritual consciousness, does not to accept the symbols of sannyas, tridanda, kamandalu, they don't even accept it. Some, according to the necessity, they may sometime accept it, but otherwise they can reject also. Mm. uh, yeah. So let me read the purport to text 8, which is good. Let me know if you are in a position to read. Then
I
Or you?
can read, Prabhuji.
Okay, read the purport on the screen. Can you read on the screen or text 8 purport? Purport, yeah, to text
Uh,
8.
is it okay if I read from the book?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So-called swamis and yogis generally make disciples by alluring them with material benefits. There are many so-called gurus who attract disciples by promising to cure their diseases or increase their material opulence by manufacturing gold. These are lucrative allurements for unintelligent men. A sannyasi is prohibited for making disciples through such material allurements. Sannyasis sometimes indulge in material opulence by unnecessarily constructing many temples and monasteries, but actually such endeavors should be avoided. Temples and monasteries should be constructed for the preaching of spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness, not to provide free hotels for persons who are useful for neither material nor spiritual purposes. Temples and monasteries should be strictly off limits to worthless clubs of crazy men. In the Krishna consciousness movement, we welcome everyone who agrees at least to follow the movement's regulative principles. No illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat eating, and no gambling. In the temples and monasteries, gatherings of unnecessary, rejected, lazy fellows should be strictly disallowed. The temples and monasteries should be used exclusively by devotees who are serious about spiritual advancement in Krishna consciousness. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the word
Or,
arambha,
yeah, Aram.
arambha as meaning, sorry, I can't read these.
Matadi Vyaparan.
Oh, Mathadi Vyaparan, which means attempts to construct temples and monasteries. The first business of the sannyasis is to preach Krishna consciousness. But if by the grace of Krishna facilities are available, then he may construct temples and monasteries to give shelter to the serious students of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, such temples and monasteries are not needed.
This is a thank you so much, Mataji. So
Thank you, Prabhuji.
this is the key point here. The first business of the temple means there should be preaching going on, education, spiritual education should take place in that temple. Mm. So that is the prime one. And here Prabhupada talks about how one should not allure, people to gain more disciples. Prabhupada talks about that quite a bit. Okay. Um,
Shall I carry on?
no, that's fine.
Oh.
Again, I will ask when necessary. Okay, so yeah, Paramahamsa. So in the Paramahamsa stage, spiritually advanced person who is peaceful and equiposed does not need to accept symbols of sannyas I mentioned. And as for necessity, sometimes they may accept, sometimes they may reject. Hmm. Um, Although one may not expose himself by his behavior, um, his purpose is disclosed. Let me read. Although a saintly person may not expose himself to the vision of human society, so they don't say, uh, go around and tell that they are saintly. By his behavior, his purpose is disclosed. So it's not that we boast about ourselves. The sannyasis usually should not boast themselves, but thereby, just by looking at them, we can understand that they are saintly. By their behavior, we can understand. Hmm? Uh, yeah, it is said that one should be humble, meek and humble. Although one is greatest thoughtful orator, he should present himself like a dumb man. So do not there should not be any show battle. Hmm. A great personality very much advanced in Krishna consciousness may not expose himself by the signs of sannyasi. Hmm. To cover himself, he may live like a restless child or a dumb person, although he is the greatest orator or a poet. Hmm. So, an historical in this regard, Narada Muni further describes the behavior of such saintly person by narrating a conversation that happened between Prahlad Maharaj and the Avaduta Brahman. So we know that Prahlad was enthroned. Uh, Lord Brahma actually enthroned Prahlad Maharaj after the death of his father. That time he was around 5 year old, but now, you know, um, is an adult, and he was just wandering with some of his confidential associates to observe the nature of the people in general. So while he was touring, while Prahlad Maharaj was touring, um, so he came across a saintly person who was feeding himself like a python. So the python, it lives in one place. This is Prabhupada used to quote this Ajagara, Ajagara Vritti. Hmm? Ajagara means it doesn't move, but it just lives in one place, and it just eats anything that comes in its way, to its way. Huh? Um, so, yeah, which does not go anywhere but sits in one place for years and eats whatever is automatically available. Prahlad Maharaj, along with his associate, met this great saint and spoke to him as follows. So, um, Prahlad Maharaj, uh, yeah, so he said, Prahlad Maharaj said when he saw this advanced devotee, he's called Avaduta. So Avadutas they do not follow any social customs. They are beyond social customs, Avadutas. So you met an Avaduta Brahman. Hmm? Mm. So Prahlad Maharaj met this person lying on the ground, covered with dust, feeding himself like python. Mm. By his activities, bodily features, words, people could not understand whether he was some person they knew. So common people could not understand who was he, hmm? Who is he exactly. Prahlad Maharaj, because is an advanced devotee, so he could recognize um, the saintly quality of this person, Avaduta Brahman, and he duly worshipped that saintly person, um, touching his feet with his head. Then he inquired from him very submissively as follows. Prahlad Maharaj inquired. Hmm? But he did not just blindly do this. Prahlad Maharaj studied the bodily features of the saintly person and understood that he was an intelligent and expert, although he was lying down and not doing anything. So, what did Prahlad say? Prahlad asked, what did he say? My dear saintly person, I see you do nothing. Huh? You do not work to earn your livelihood. but you have a stout body, is quite fat, like that of a materialistic enjoyer. You have no money for sense enjoyment. How then your body became so fat? You appear learned and intelligent, yet you lie down inactive, looking at people doing actions with disgust. Hmm? So, Prahlad Maharaj basically said, you don't work, you lie down simply, and you are yet stout and fat. How is it? So, captivated by Prahlad Maharaj's sweet words, this saintly person replied with a smile. Hmm? Usually, he doesn't speak this person, but he says, I can see. He actually recognized Prahlad Maharaj. Hmm? Um, you are respected by advanced men. You are aware of different stages of life. Yeah, so you are such a great person, and I'm happy to speak. uh, um, so what did the saintly person say? Saintly person said that, Prahlad Maharaj, although you know everything, you asked some questions, I shall answer you. Hmm? Though I have taken a vow of silence, I shall break it. Uh, um, and according to what I have heard from authorities, for my self purification. He said, because you asked me, I'll speak. Although you knew, but I'm going to speak. It's for my purification. Okay. So let me see. Is anyone else in a position to read apart from Kiran Koli Mataji? Okay. So the Brahmana describes the futility of material happiness. Meena Mataji. Yes, thank you so much. Let's read some of these texts. It's good to read some of them. 24 till 34.
Because of unsatiable material desires, I was being carried away by the waves of material nature's laws. And thus I was engaging in different activities, struggling for existence in various forms of life. In the course of the evolutionary process, which is caused by fruitive activities due to undesirable material sense gratification, I have received this human form of life, which can lead to the heavenly planets, to liberation, to the lower species, or to rebirth among human beings. In this human form of life, men and women unite for the sensual pleasure of sex, but by actual experience, we have observed that none of them are happy. Therefore, seeing the contrary results, I have stopped taking part in materialistic activities. The actual form of life for the living entities is one of spiritual happiness, which is real happiness. This happiness can be achieved only when one stops all materialistic activities. Material sense enjoyment is simply an imagination. Therefore, considering the subject matter, I have ceased from all material activities and am lying down here. In this way, the conditioned soul living within the body forgets his self interest because he identifies himself with the body. Because the body is material, his natural tendency is to be attracted by the varieties of material world. Thus, the living entity suffers the miseries of material existence. Just as a deer, because of ignorance, cannot see the water within a well covered by grass, but runs after water elsewhere, the living entity covered by the material body does not see the happiness within himself but runs after happiness in the material world. The living entity tries to achieve happiness and rid himself of the causes of distress, but because the various bodies of the living entities are under the full control of material nature, all his plans in different bodies, one after another, are ultimately baffled. Materialistic activities are always mixed with three kinds of material conditions: adhyatmika, adidhaivika, and adibhautika. Therefore, even if one achieves some success by performing such activities, what is the benefit of this success? One is still subjected to birth, death, old age, disease, and reactions of his motive activities. The Brahman continued, I am actually seeing how a rich man who is a victim of his senses is very greedy to accumulate wealth and therefore suffers from insomnia due to fear from all sides despite his wealth and opulence. Those who are considered materially powerful and rich are always full of anxieties because of governmental laws, thieves and rogues, enemies, family members, animals, birds, persons seeking charity, the inevitable time factor, and even their own selves. Thus, they are invariably afraid. Those in human society who are intelligent should give up the original cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, attachment, poverty, and unnecessary labor. The original cause of all these is the desire for unnecessary prestige and money. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. So we will read the purport. Can you read the purport to text 29?
Yes, sure. This is an accurate example depicting how the living entity, because of lack of knowledge, runs after happiness outside his own self. When one understands his real identity as a spiritual being, he can understand the supreme spiritual being. Krishna and the real happiness exchanged between Krishna and one's self. It is very interesting to note how this verse points to the body's growth from the spirit's soul. The modern materialistic scientist thinks that life grows from matter, but actually the fact is that matter grows from life. The life or the spirit soul is compared herein to water from which clumps of matter grow in the form of grass. One who is ignorant of scientific knowledge of the spirit and does not look inside the body to find happiness in the soul. Instead, he goes outside to search for happiness. Just as a deer without knowledge of the water beneath the grass goes out to the desert to find water. The Krishna conscious movement is trying to remove the ignorance of misled human beings who are trying to find water outside the jurisdiction of life. Raso vaisaha, rasoam apsu kamteya. The taste of water is Krishna. To quench one's thirst, one must taste water by association with Krishna. This is the Vedic injunction. Hare Krishna.
So thank you very much. So this Avaduta Brahman, so he eventually opened his mouth and so he spoke about the futility of material life. So it talks about this human form, and human form should be used for higher purpose. But sense gratification, he saw people use this human form of life for sense gratification. However, however much they gratify their senses, they are still not satisfied. So this person observed that and says that I stopped engaging in the material sense gratification. Um, hmm. And what else he say? Accumulating money talks. So they are still in anxiety. Uh, mm. So why they're in anxiety, there are government laws and tax and all these things, when you accumulate money, or somebody else wants it. And it is said that the rich people suffer from insomnia. So he talks about that, and there are miseries, adhyatmika, adi daivika, adi bhautika, miseries caused by one's own body and mind, miseries caused by other living entities, and miseries caused by the demigods. So um, yeah. Uh, so and the original cause of these fear and etc. is and desire for unnecessary prestige and money. Maybe we can read this story. It's quite a big one. Yeah. So yeah, basically, he says that he had observed, and people, you know those who engage in materialistic activities are not happy, and he's giving examples one after another. uh, and he had seen mainly why people, you know they see this is an important one: lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, attachment, uh, and poverty and unnecessary labor. Mm. The original cause of all this is the desire for unnecessary prestige and money, he says. So you observed that also. Then he talks about two gurus. Mm. Um, he has two gurus. Uh, and in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is another Avaduta Brahman, if you remember. He had 24 gurus. Mm. So guru means basically you see someone. There are two types, like many types of gurus. One is like Diksha Guru, one who gives the Diksha, and another is Shiksha Guru, who gives you training, mm, teaches you. So when you see someone and you learn something good, that person becomes your guru. So this Avadhuta Brahmani says that he had two gurus, and these two gurus are, one is bee and another is python. Huh? Um, so, and he says this. So what did he learn from the bumblebee? From bumblebee, he had learned to be unattached to accumulating money. Hmm? What does the bumblebee, the bees work so hard and collect the each drop of nectar, and eventually make this honeycomb, but someone else steals that. So he saw this bumblebee, and wow, it is working so hard to accumulate this honey, but someone else is stealing. Uh, so he decided, better be unattached to accumulating money. He said that's what he learned from bumblebee. Uh, and I do not endeavor to get anything, but I'm satisfied whichever is achieved in its own way. So, and this is Ajagar Vritti, means from Python. That's what Python doesn't do much, but whatever sits in one place and accepts whatever it gets. So we will read part 47. I'll read it. One should learn detachment from the bumblebees, for they collect drops of honey here and there and keep it in their honeycomb. But then someone comes and by force takes all the honey away, leaving the bumblebees with nothing. Therefore, one should learn from the bumblebees not to keep more money than one needs. Yeah, one needs. Similarly, one should learn from Python to stay in one place for many, many days without food and then eat only if something comes in its own way. Thus, learned Brahmana gave instructions gained from these two creatures, namely the bumblebee and Python. So these are two gurus. That's what he learned from Python and bumblebee. Hmm. And and what is the lifestyle of this Avaduta Brahmana? Eating habits. What does he eat? How does he eat? He says, I eat whatever is easily available. Small quantity, great quantity, palatable food, stale food, offered with respect, given negligibly, neglectfully. Sometimes I eat during the day, sometimes I eat night. So that those are his eating habits. What does it say? He is basically depending on the Lord's mercy for that. Dressing habits. I wear whatever is available according to my destiny. Hmm? Linen, silk, cotton, bark, and deer skin. Sleeping habits. And where does he sleep? He says, I lie down whenever possible, on earth, on leaves, grass, or stone, on a pile of ashes, or in a palace. He doesn't mind. Uh, so his goal is this is like, uh, spiritual is like, only goal is Lord Krishna, taking shelter of Lord Krishna. So, in different places, yeah, you get just like summer and winter seasons, they rotate, but the spiritualist tolerates and tam titaksha swabharata, Krishna says, uh, and then doesn't, get disturbed with these temporary things. So, yeah, and travels. Sometimes, I bathe nicely, decorate with sandalwood pulp, fine garments. I wear garlands, ornaments, and I travel like a king on an elephant, chariot, or a horse. Sometimes, however, I travel naked like a haunted person. So, depending on whatever comes, yeah. So, this is how the Avaduta Brahman talked about himself, and then giving up the material body and self relation. He talks about um, how to give up the body, and then he says, I have described my history of self realization to you, O Prahlad, because you are a self realized soul and a devotee, a great devotee. You do not care for public opinion or so called scriptures. Hmm. Prahlad Maharaj understood the occupational duties of a Paramahamsa. Prahlad Maharaj duly worshipped the saint and departed with his permission. So, this is a very simple and straightforward chapter. So in chapter 12, Narada Muni describes the duties of Brahmachari and Vanaprastha. He also talks a little bit about Grihastha. Um, but the main focus was on brahmachari and vanaprastha in the 12th chapter. And in the 13th chapter, the current chapter, Narada Muni describes the conduct of a sannyasi. And um, so, and he narrated a story, a conversation that happened between Prahlad Maharaj and the Savaduta Brahman. So, um, and these are some of the symptoms of an exalted Vaishnava. But for us, so what are the lessons that we can learn from this story? Um, yes. So the lesson that we can learn, we are not in a sannyas ashram, so we are in a grihastha ashram. So we have to work, uh, but there should be a balance, work-life balance, and we should definitely give time to our devotional service along work, alongside the work. We also should give time for our spirituality. And then the other lessons that I can think of are that we should minimize the material things, um, depend on Lord Krishna's mercy, um, not to over endeavor. mm, um, and especially remember the example of we can't be like python. We can't just sit on one place, and um, and eat like python. So that is not possible for us, but like a bumblebee, we don't want to over endeavor to collect and eventually pass it to someone else, but we should work so that there is enough to cover for our needs. But these are the qualities of the avaduta. Avadutas are they completely depend on Lord's mercy. Mm. Yeah, so thank you very much, and I shall stop here. And there are two more chapters. Yeah, two more chapters in seventh canto. The next one is ideal family life, and then the 15th one is instruction for civilized human beings. Yes, Purna Mataji, you are on mute. I think you are still on mute. Haribal, can you hear me? Am I audible? Krishna?
We can hear you, Prabhuji.
Okay. Okay. Lakshman Babu, have you got a question?
Yes, Prabhuji, yeah, I have a small question. So you
Okay.
mentioned that the sannyasi should not argue with others. They and So that is a quality of sannyasi. But when there are situations where people nowadays, if you look at it, there are a lot of attack on dharma, especially Sanatana Dharma, and people are aggressively kind of approaching, and also they're debating with so many points. But it is a duty to clarify what their misconceptions they're propagating, right? So, or how what is the best thing? Still, it's better to keep quiet. I mean, or how we can look at it.
Yeah. So, Prabhu, there is a professional debating in the olden days. There is professional debating to show, why do they do that? Just to show that I am great. Okay. That kind of debate should not, a sannyasi should not participate. Just like
Okay,
here.
okay.
Yeah,
So,
just
okay,
like,
it's okay.
yeah. Yeah. So when things are not clear, one can clear. One
Okay.
can inform. Just like this Avaduta Brahman, he had taken a vow not to speak.
Yeah.
But he spoke.
Yes.
But he spoke. He said that, for higher purpose he's speaking. Simply unnecessary arguments. Okay. There is necessary, if it is necessary, you should clarify it. Prabhupada also had a discussion with several people. That's different. But, there are just people, like to debate, sit and debate. Hmm. That kind of thing should be avoided. This is what the scripture is telling, isn't it? Hmm. One should not become a professional teacher, nor indulge in arguments. Hmm. Yeah, that kind of argument. But yes, so
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah.
yeah, things, when it is required spiritually, yes, Prabhupada
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
sat down with several spiritualists and had discussion. But he never criticized them, or he never showed that he's greater than them. Yeah, so it's you can hear these conversations of Prabhupada with other saintly people. Yeah. Okay. Purnamata, you had a question? She had left, I guess. Now, is she still here? No. Okay, so with that, we'll conclude this 13th chapter, and hopefully, Krishna willing, we will see you all next week. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila
Hare
Prabhupada
Krishna, Prabhuji.
ki jai.
Okay.
Gandaraj
Thank
Pada
you, Prabhuji.
jai. Hare Krishna.